Hi, it's Hazel, and welcome to my channel, Hazel and Aka Design. If you have, from these clues here, guessed that I'm going to be talking about wallpaper books today, then you would be right, and an absolute smart cookie, aka genius. I still have a head cold that I got on Christmas Eve. It's only the 27th today as I'm doing this, so it hasn't run its course yet. So again, I'll apologize if my thinking is not the sharpest ever, and if I sound different than usual. I just had a phone call with my daughter and a little bit of tough love. She said, well, you should be sleeping. And I did take a nap yesterday when I noticed that I was falling asleep sitting up. Never a good sign. So basically, I said, well, yes, I know that probably would be the smart thing to do, but I then feel bad about not doing the things that I should be doing. And she said, well, then I guess it just adds another few days to the recovery period. So anyway, do as I say, not as I do. Do. Okay, so if you have ever been lucky enough to have a wallpaper book come into your life, then I don't need to, it's like preaching to the converted. You don't need to be convinced about how many, the sheer volume of supplies and resources that come with a particular book. And unless something has changed, typically, if you're really, really sweet and you come across somebody nice that's running a paint and wallpaper store, you may be able to talk yourself into a free discontinued book. And I have been lucky enough, sorry, I need to just put something on my lips, are ready to crack here. If I have been lucky enough to have some wallpaper books, including one that I got from Brenda Clark, aka The Simple Crafter. And I just wanted to show you and talk you through what I did with them. Now, a wallpaper book is typically big, heavy, and unwieldy. It is not something that fits easily into a craft space. And it's one of those things that we are likely to, prop up behind a door or maybe slide under something, never to be visited and viewed and used again. So, in the continuing effort to use what I have, finish what I've started, and, just shake things up a bit, I decided that even though I didn't really know how I was going to store, excuse me, the finished pieces, I was determined to deconstruct the books, or some of the books. So wallpaper books, because they're so big and heavy, they have to be well constructed in order to stand up to the rigors of store life and maybe being lent to someone to take home over the weekend or whatever. In one case, I was able to deconstruct the book and save the pieces in their entirety, including the punch holes along the side. And in others, I thought, okay, this is a losing battle. Let me save some time and just cut it with a utility knife. So let me start showing you. And surprisingly enough, I don't actually have any wallpaper here. the next few images I show you are actually some of the pages that give a room size impression of what a particular paper might look like. So of course, these are big. They can even be bigger than this size, which is 17 by 50. So because they're directional, it would probably not lend itself well to envelope making or some of the things we do with bigger things. But certainly this could be cut down. In fact, it could be cut horizontally and get two smaller sized signature pages. It could be torn and used as collage fodder because, of course, so for instance, if a person was doing a masterboard in blues, well, sorry, that thinking doesn't hold true. I was going to say we'd have both this and this. I guess we could theoretically have two different patterns if we just choose one side or the other. So I'll just quickly show you how. And the other thing, of course, that almost goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway, is fussy cutting, like those hydrangea. That looks like coral. Stack of books. What do we have on this side? I mean, if you needed a cushion or a mug or something for your, or a settee or a chandelier for your glue book, then you've got it. Okay, here's a smaller version of those same images. A smaller version of this same big page here. So you could play with scale if you were doing a collage. So all I'm saying is that a person should be looking at every single bit of the book. And in fact, I've said to my husband to get rid of the actual covers. If I were truly trying to recycle everything that comes into the house, then I would say, would you please take these to the table saw, cut off the end pieces, square them off, cut them to such and such a size. But frankly, I'm not a young woman, and I'm not going to live long enough to do that. So I'm not going to pretend that I am. Again, fussy cut images. Look at this beautiful one. This is sort of my burgundy maroon color. Here it is with some wainscoting, and how that could look in a formal space. Some of these oversized images would also be great for a more surrealistic looking glue book type thing. Excuse me. So, you know, cut out that lamp, which would be easy enough to do, or this candlestick, candle holder and pillar candle, and those would make some great images for a glue book, especially if you want to play with size and proportion. You know, where a candle holder and candle could be twice as big as a rhinoceros kind of thing, where you're playing with those kinds of images. Old books. Okay, I probably don't need to. You're getting the message. This is from another, a different book, and this one, the name of the book was Missoni Home. Now, you will see, as I show you some of the other samples, that I didn't Google it, but if you remember in the late 60s, probably more like the early 70s, what I would call bargello or flame stitch that pattern was the rage. And I remember having a top, like a short sleeve top, that was just obviously shades that I would have liked. And I have very few memories of what I wore when, or the decades. I'm a pathetic compared to Carol with her memory. Carol Crinkled Path, Carol. She knows the decades and can practically carbon date things by to the year. Anyway, I don't know why I told you all that. I'm sure it didn't improve the quality of your life. So in this book, you can see the paper is heavier. It's less a design style that I would that I like or would care for. However, these kind of heavy papers could clearly very much be journal covers. By the time you add a layer inside and outside, I mean, you've got something pretty substantial going there. This is kind of funky paper. Don't know that I particularly like it, but it's certainly different, and there are phases in it. So again, you will see some of these things appearing as I attempt to stretch my creative wings in 2025. Oh, I haven't done a video about it. I did write a column for my newspaper column as I was winding down 2024. And I said that, in that column, I said that I wanted to choose a word for 2025. And I first heard of that concept of choosing a word that a person, that could guide a word that you could journal about, a person that you could meditate upon, after reading Debbie Macomber's book, One Perfect Word. And actually, is this the column right here? Okay, yes it is. I should say, for those of you who may want to read my column, it does appear online on the Lamont Leader website. And the name of my column is From Where I Sit. So let's just cover up that mugshot there. Anyway, so I talk about choosing a word. And okay, maybe I'll read you this part. I talk about how a person might go through the process of picking a word. I'll just start here. I know I just dropped this concept into your lap, and it will take time to decide on a word if you choose to do so, and I hope you do. In the last umpteen videos I've scheduled to cover the holiday break, I find myself talking about pushing comfort zone limits, growing artistically, taking myself less seriously, losing some control, taking some chances. Given all that, play, risk, expand, or growth could be on the short list. In the time it took to type and reread that sentence, I chose risk, right here, right now. Risk sounds ballsy with the possibility of reward. Risk sounds like, what have I got to lose? Risk it is, from where I sit. And I usually, my catch line, of course, when I was when I first pitched the idea of a column in 2002, it's appeared in several different newspapers over that time, I wanted something that would serve as a disclaimer. In other words, anything that I write in these columns are just my opinion. So from where I sit, this is how I see it. From where I sit, this is what I think of that. So typically, my tagline is to end, my last sentence is always from where I sit. So again, I will, if you do want to, look up and read my column, you can reach out to me in the comments, and I'll just repeat where to find that. Anyway, that is so typically I would be talking to you about that as well. So that risk is what I intend to be doing more of in 2025. And the place you're probably most likely to see that is in the collage, glue books, art making that I intend to focus on, and content creation too, because if I am spending my time and energy exploring my limits and getting more creative, taking chances, losing control, then that's naturally what will be the subject matter of my videos. So I hope that some of you may choose to join me in that endeavor. Anyway, so these, as you can tell, were smaller sized pages. This one, okay, you can see that they've upholstered something very modular type furniture. I wish I would have thought of bringing a piece of this wallpaper, the actual wallpaper, here to show you. It is so beautiful. It looks like it's been stitched. It looks more like fabric than it does. Oh, this was the cover of the book. It looks more like fabric than it does like paper. Okay, so basically, depending on the style of the book, so you can probably figure out that all of these smaller sheets came from this Missoni book. And so in every case, regardless of what the size was, I salvaged the colored images. Now, of course, on the backs of these, you can see that there are black and white and grayscale images too. But again, I can't possibly use all of this. So I'm sorry. The size of the scrap will determine what I do with it. And some of that will become clearer as I go along. So these are kind of, and you can see a very different aesthetic. I really don't like that at all. This is more like what I'm talking about, that top that I had, or that cushion cover there. And this also is very beautiful paper. And of course, because there is more paper, here's another piece of it. Because there is more paper than I will ever use in a lifetime, I will be putting together some wallpaper bundles, and I will try to, well, you know, if you know me, you know that I'm going to do it with color as the basis. Here are some other oddball shapes. So again, this could just be the substrate. This could be a little journal cover. Use this as the basis, collage something extra on top of it, cover the inside, and, you've got her done, baby. But back to the wallpaper bundles. Of course, the wallpaper is not a standard size because the books are not a standard size. So I may just try to unify them, maybe even cut them in half or cut them into quarters or whatever makes sense so that they are easily shippable. Because honestly, you don't need as much material as is available. You just need enough to do a project or two. So you can see that some of these things are longer and skinnier. So they could and you know how much I love an accordion or concertina. So they could be folded because there's good body. I mean, obviously, I would want to score them first. So some of those might get used that way. Some of these would make beautiful belly bands or side tucks. And the reason I went through them and did all this in the first place is because I wanted to reduce the bulk and I wanted to make it accessible. Because frankly, I don't know about you, but if you're like me, if something isn't easy to get at and isn't sort of ready to go, chances are I'm not going to use it. If I have to dig out a wallpaper book and then flip through it and then pick a paper and then cut it up, chances are it's not going to happen. Now, these are double-sided, and these were above and below some of those Missoni home images I showed you. So, actually, it was Susie that mentioned in the comments on the grungy video, grungy journal video, that snippet rolls would be, so these would be perfect. They are 2 inches wide and 18 or so inches long. I could turn all of these into snippet rolls. And Susie, thank you for the reminder. I do love snippets, and the weight is pretty good. So I'm setting that aside to remember that. I'll just show you quick that these, and they don't stack well because of course everyone is practically a different size, which is kind of annoying. But so these could almost be cut up, and they could be, well, the back isn't great, but that could be covered. These could become dangles. They're kind of, are they twinchy size? Not quite. They're 1 3/4 ish. But, punch a hole, and that could be the basis of a snippet. It could be part of a dangle. So I have several of those. I just cut them down to a size that made it easier to handle. Okay, so there are a number of those. I will probably keep these grouped together. I'll just set that aside for now. Now, also in the Missoni book, there were several of these that have the actual paper affixed to them. I'm sorry. Some of this paper, if you can call it that, feels like it feels more like a placemat or something, really very vinyl-y and thick. But again, these are neutrals, and they could be the start of something. I just cut them out the way they were, but I could further cut them out, and they could be, I could get 3 pockets out of this, or if I wanted to keep all of the similar ones together, I would, okay, so 1, 2, 5, 6, oh, here are another 3, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. I could get 10, 11 pockets, all that same sort of tweedy looking pattern. Then there are others in this other, or there are 2 other designs here. So I could do that, or I could cut them, cut the names off and have them as vertical tuck spots, or cut them in half again and get 2 bases for dangles or clusters. So, I mean, a person could make this stuff stretch almost the whole year. So again, in the Missoni book, there were a bunch of these kind of images. So this shows all the colorways for that particular wallpaper. So again, cut this up as side tucks. Here's another 4-part design. This is even narrower. These could also be the base for, oh, here's another one of these. They could be the base for a journaling card. Just add a focal point. Cut these into 2 tags. Cut this into 2 tags. I didn't want to make, you know, a million little pieces. I just wanted 500,000 little pieces. So that's why I left some of these things intact, you know, to be cut down when the spirit moves me. And then there's even this little thing. So I could put this with the twin sheet bits. Okay, so that shows kind of the things with designs. Oh, I didn't realize that one of these had, I'll probably put this, well, I don't know. I don't really like that. So all of these other plain cards, most of these, except for that one, are all, I'm sorry, are all basically good, blank on both sides. So this, because I kind of feel lousy, this video is not the masterpiece. This is not Masterpiece Theater that I was hoping it was going to be. I thought I would have something really more definitive to show you. And I did start working to that effect. So you know that lately, and I don't even, there is no up or down, I guess, unless we want this guy to be right side up. I used one of the bigger cutoff pieces to create essentially a masterboard. And I did it on both sides because I could, well, scoring would be the smarter way, because this is now card, you know, the heavier card board, or not board really, card stock, I guess, and 2 layers of copy paper. So it is getting thicker, and if I were to force a fold, then for sure it'll crack. But if I score it, it wouldn't. And cracking is not the end of the world anyway, because we know that we can always cover such things up with doilies or fabric or paper or some other thing. And it just occurs to me that if you watch someone like Nick the Booksmith, she especially will talk, because I think she's really a master bookmaker. She especially will talk about the grain of paper. So every paper has grain, and depending how it was made, it will either be more flexible in one direction or the other. Now, I can get a better fold going this way, so, which is how I would be inclined to do it anyway. This thing, if you're, in case you're keeping score, is 14.5 by 12. So again, because I like making things that are off size and off, out of the ordinary, I could, of course, cut it. I could cut it at 9 and, what did I say it was this way? 12. So 9 and 3, or any other combination of things. So, oh, and I do want to say that what I did here was use some of the digitals that I have printed. I've told you in the past that when I first got into this, and of course the kinds of people that I was watching were people like Gail Augustinelli, Rachel, Roxy Creations, Tina, Shabby Dabby Doodah, Andrea from Artie Mays, Pam, well, but Pam is a little different from the Paper Outpost. Anyway, I would see these people working with digitals, and I'm thinking, well, clearly I too must have digitals. But I didn't, I'm not a Gail Augustinelli in that I will print a kit and make a journal out of a kit. That's not my shtick. And I know, because she said so in videos, that she has been criticized, or has people saying, well, those aren't real journal. And this is how I imagine them saying, because of course there is no voice or inflection in comments, but that's not a real journal. All you did was print this stuff and reassemble it as a book. And honestly, some part of me kind of agrees with that. However, I've also told you that when I would buy digitals, like a fool, I would print the same thing at least twice. One to use and one to have. Well, sometimes I didn't even use the one I intended to use. So I have these particular ones, just like a sick amount. So I did what we could call a cover or a masterboard. I also, those are glue things that need to be cleaned up a bit. This is also some of the blank cardboard or cardstock from the kits, or from the wallpaper book. So I covered some of these larger things. Now, okay, for instance, this one is 4 3/4 by 3, 6, 7.5. So these are pretty substantial sized cards. So these 4 backgrounds, they were basically just the same digital. And then I used some fussy cut images to further decorate them. So this is a Jessie Wilcox Smith illustration. I thought it went well together. This is out of some sort of an old book, and so is that one. I added some labels here. This was something that I had just fussy cut out of who knows where. This is all, I think this is a Walter Crane illustration. I'm sorry. But you need bigger, or at least to my taste, my eye, I needed bigger focal points here because these cards are so darn big. And this one in particular, like I fussy cut this out yesterday, I think, and just slapped it on there because I thought I can either use it right this second or I can waste time filing it and seeing, you know, and hopefully maybe a year from now, stumbling across it again and deciding what to do with it. I don't know whose kits these are, but you can see that I covered many more things. Now, a shrewd viewer like Teresa, that Teresa, in a comment on my, I believe it was the altered book video, I'm doing like a little flip through or something, that eagle-eyed girl spots a word that triggers a memory that she then writes to me about. Oh, I know what it was. It was the image, the fussy cut images of all of those people shushing, because of course the book I got that out of, they were all gathered around a sleeping baby in a crib. Only Teresa, trust me, only Teresa would notice that word across from that image and make the connection. Like, what a gal. Anyway, I started out to say that some of you will be able to pick up the very fine line that is evidence of a plugged nozzle. I am choosing to use these anyway, knowing that in some cases it could look like we've added a stripe through some very magical, talented process. Or I can pretend it doesn't matter, or I can be confident in the belief that by the time I have added some more focal points, some more text, some more elements, that this will no longer be visible as a boo-boo and a blunder. And believe it or not, I have now learned to not print pages after pages after pages without taking a look at what result I'm getting. So this is just more of that same ancient text, probably, well, that's obviously Italian, but it also may be Latin. I shouldn't even guess, because how do I know? Anyway, so these are great neutral ones. These floral ones obviously would get you a totally different look. Then I printed a bunch that were basically just not printed. These things were all printed. I used ones that were just sort of generic decorative backgrounds. So this is lovely. It could turn into anything. This one is lovely and could turn into anything, as is this one. This is a little bit weirder. I don't know. I think this is a tailor-made journal. I'm not quite sure why. These were like vintage papers or something that Lorna did here. I don't like these colors. I don't like, I mean, I will make the best of them, but this is not really my favorite. So, and you know, it's like that when you buy digitals. You're going to have some favorites and then some less favorites within a kit. So I just wanted to show you all of this and to show you that there will be more of these kinds of things showing up as I'm determined to use up digitals that I've already printed, because I've gone through the expense of buying the digitals, using the paper and the ink to print them. So I want to maximize them and use them. And I think that that is probably all I intended to say about this. Now, just to get back to the actual wallpaper itself, I've already said that I would be putting together bundles, picking some favorites for myself to work on. I will come up with some projects that use the actual wallpaper, but you can guess now what those things might be. You may have seen the pouches that I make with them, journal covers, journal or signature covers, you know, just again, depending on the paper. So I have some vintage wallpaper that, of course, is not vinyl. It's paper with a papery background, paper background. So those lend themselves more likely to decorating tags, making master boards, and so on. The vinyl ones, of course, are thicker and more, can we say, artificial in feel. So they're also tougher, stronger, more resilient. So two extremes of the same spectrum, so to speak. So I guess the best that I or anyone else who's creating content on YouTube can do is show you some stuff, talk you through some stuff, but ultimately what you do will depend on what you have available to you. Obviously, if I put together bundles and you buy a bundle, then you can kind of work alongside me. But you can also source these things in other ways, and what you get or what you have will determine what you make. Plus, of course, your taste and your aesthetic. So don't ever, especially if you're new, don't ever fall into the trap of believing that you need to do what I or anyone else are doing. Yes, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And I know that I certainly did my share of watching videos, pausing videos, rewinding videos, repeating videos so that I would get things exactly right. But that's foolhardy, because I don't know that I've gone back to any of those ideas, so maybe I didn't love them in the first place. I just thought it was part of my apprenticeship, which it probably was. I think that the sincerest method that I can use to help you advance as an artist is to say to you, this is what I have. This is what I did with what I have. This is what I might have done with what I have. But please do what you want to do with what you have. So if that sounds like a cop-out on my part, I would argue that it's not a cop-out. It's the sincerest form of help that I can offer anybody who is just starting out. I could be one of those prescriptive, well, if I forced myself, I could become one of those prescriptive YouTubers who say, okay, you need something this size, and you need to score it at 7 7/16, and then you need to turn it 180 degrees, and then you need to score it at 3 3/8 inches. And then you cut here, and you fold here, and you do blah, 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 blah. I don't think, you're probably not ever going to see that from me. I might try that once just to see if I can do it, but that's really not what this is about on this channel. So, yeah, I've gone on too long, probably beating a dead horse here. Just be reassured that you can't make any mistakes. No matter what you try, no matter what materials you use, no matter what supplies you use, no matter what technique you use, what you create will be good. And more importantly, good enough. Now, there are a lot of us, including me, who talk about perfection not being the goal, and that's true, it isn't. If you lean in that direction, I would urge that you try to ratchet that back a few notches, that you maybe deliberately do something askew or at an angle or upside down, just to prove yourself that the world does not stop spinning on its axis if you did that. I do believe that with time and effort and projects under your belt, under our belt, that we learn what we like and what our preferences are. But if my word of 2025 is risk, then you should be able to visibly see me taking risks. And maybe that encourages you to try the same, to not try the same, but to risk doing things differently, marching to your own drummer, in your own space, using your own stuff. We're not in junior high anymore, where we all have to wear the same jeans and the same jewelry and this part our hair in the same direction and all of that stuff. We don't want groupthink. We want to support and encourage each other, and we want to truly be our own individuals. You know, when teens start rebelling again, or maybe it's happening earlier these days because everything is speeded up. When kids begin rebelling and against their parents and saying, you know, where suddenly parents go from being revered and adored by their children, they're now the object of scorn and ridicule, because what do you know? And there's more than one way to do things, and your way isn't the right way, you know, all those usual things. The ironic part is that kids claim they want to be individuals, and that separation and that rebellion against their parents is their first tentative steps, cutting the umbilical cord, cutting the apron strings, cutting their ties to us as parents, but yet they become little clones of their friends. So it is a weird and wonderful time. And finding one's artistic niche, trying out one's artistic legs, is that the right expression? Is the adult version of the teenage rebellion. We can look at a million YouTube videos and see that so many of them are the same thing being created over and over and over again, just using a different kit. And we can break free from that. We can say, no, Miss YouTube creator, I refuse to do that. I want to do this. And you'd be totally right in making that proclamation. So anyway, this has gone way off track. Hopefully something that I've said there has been kind of useful to you in a new perspective, a new thing to consider, a new way of looking at things. How did we get from wallpaper to philosophy? I don't know. If what I have said has resonated with you, knowing that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. If any of this has resonated with you, great. I'm grateful that I said something that worked. If this has seemed like, holy cow, she sure wandered off the path today. Let me apologize in advance. And I don't think you have to be, green as grass or wet behind the ears or a newbie to sometimes need to be nudged a bit, to be poked along and set and have someone challenge what you're doing and why you're doing it and say, have you tried something new lately? Anyway, I'm going to stop there. I hope that if a wallpaper book falls into your lap, that you now have a better idea of what you could do with it. And if not an entire book, then, please keep your eyes peeled for myself or anyone else who is selling wallpaper bundles, because there is no end to the possibilities available to you. Thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.